You know, it's funny. Sometimes the biggest changes, the really fundamental ones, they just happen quietly. While we were all looking at earnings reports, three stories popped up that, on their own, are pretty interesting. But when you put them together, oh man, you start to see a massive tectonic shift happening right under the feet of traditional banking. And this line from the source material, it just perfectly captures the mood, right? It feels like we're in the quiet moments right before the storm hits and completely reshuffles the entire industry. And it all starts with one simple, but really powerful question. I mean, really think about that for a second. We're about to look at three companies that are answering this question, and they're doing it in very different and very powerful ways. Okay, so first up, let's dive into Coinbase. They're what I'd call the unbank. See, they're not trying to become a bank. They're trying to build a completely parallel financial system using crypto as the rails. And it all starts by rebuilding the core functions that any bank offers. So get this. Just the other day in the UK, Coinbase rolls out a new product that lets users borrow up to $5 million in USDC, a stablecoin, just by putting up their Bitcoin or Ethereum as collateral. The money hits their account in less than a minute, and there's no fixed repayment schedule. It's instant cash on your terms. And look, this didn't just come out of nowhere. It fits perfectly with the UK savings accounts they launched back in November. So you can see the pieces of the puzzle coming together, right? First, a place to save and earn yield, and now, a way to borrow against what you've saved. And here's the kicker, the final piece of the trifecta. Users can instantly convert that USDC they just borrowed into British pounds. So you can borrow against your crypto and, I don't know, buy your groceries literally moments later. Borrow, save, spend. Starting to sound familiar? And this is the absolutely crucial point. Coinbase is offering a full suite of services that feel just like banking, but they're doing it all without ever needing to become a traditional chartered bank. They're just sidestepping the old system completely. So how? Well, the secret sauce here is DeFi, or decentralized finance. The engine running all of this is a protocol called Morpho, which runs on Coinbase's own network. It uses smart contracts to completely automate the lending. That means there's no bank in the middle, no loan officer, no paperwork. It's a fundamentally different infrastructure that's just faster, cheaper, and way more transparent. And that's the real story. Brian Armstrong isn't playing the same game as the big banks. He's building a totally new one. By using DeFi, he's creating an alternative that isn't just a digital bank. It's a superior system that's built from the ground up to be borderless and nearly frictionless. Okay, so that's strategy one. Now let's pivot to our second challenger, Revolut. And their playbook? It's completely different. They aren't trying to build a parallel system. They're playing a game of patience, massive scale, and just immense profitability. First off, let's just wrap our heads around the kind of scale we're talking about here. A $75 billion valuation, all while staying completely private. That's a 66% jump in just 1 year. That's insane momentum, and they don't even need the public markets to fuel it. But here's the thing, it's not just about a flashy valuation. They are incredibly profitable. They're pulling in over $2 billion a year. They don't need to go public for cash. They are literally printing their own massive war chest. And this quote from the CEO, it says everything. When he says an IPO is still 2 years away, that's not a sign of trouble. That is a sign of supreme confidence. They feel absolutely no pressure to rush, and there's a very, very big reason for that. This isn't just waiting around. It's a calculated strategic patience. They are waiting to secure a full U.S. bank charter. And why does that matter? Because that one license is the holy grail. It unlocks the biggest, most profitable market in the world and lets them offer credit products directly. That prize is absolutely worth waiting for. All right, and for our final company, let's look at a name you might not know yet, but you're gonna want to. Plata. If Coinbase's weapon is DeFi and Revolut's is patience, Plata's is just pure, unadulterated speed. They're using it to capture a massive, wide-open market. Let's be clear, this is not some scrappy little startup round. $400 million from giants like the Qatar Investment Authority, with Morgan Stanley running the deal. This is serious, big league institutional money pouring into a company that's barely 3 years old. And this right here, this is why they're getting all that cash. In Mexico, a staggering 60% of adults have no access to formal credit. It's one of the most underbanked major economies on the planet, and Plata is just rushing in to fill that massive vacuum. And when I say speed, I am not kidding. Just look at this comparison. It shows how fast Plata hit $600 million in annualized revenue. They did it in less than 3 years. It took neobank, the biggest player in the region, more than 5 years to get to that same point. That is just a blistering, almost unbelievable pace. So the bottom line here is simple. With that combination of speed, a huge market opportunity, and a killer tech stack, Plata is basically the next big thing in emerging market fintech. They're the name you want to know before everyone else does. Okay, so let's zoom out. We've got Coinbase building a whole new system. We've got Revolut patiently conquering the existing one. And we've got Plata moving at light speed in a totally new market. What happens when you put these three really different stories together? Well, what you're looking at is a three-front war on traditional banking. It's not one single threat, it's a multi-pronged assault. One strategy is making banks irrelevant. Another is outcompeting them to win the very licenses that give them their power. And the third is just capturing all the future customers that they completely ignored. Different approaches, but the exact same target.
And this is where it all comes back to you and me and everyone. The line between a bank and a tech company, it's gone. It's completely dissolved. And as these new players redefine everything that's possible, the real question we all have to ask ourselves is whether the financial tech we use every day is actually keeping up. Because this tectonic shift, it's happening, whether we notice it or not. And we all have to decide which side of that fault line we want to be on.